Good afternoon, everyone. We had a very interesting conversation yesterday on WhatsApp, and if you can read through the message once again, you would find some interesting, funny moments. And if you have responded to my message on WhatsApp, I think you need to read again, and you have to read between the lines. Why do I say so? Because we had very interesting laugh yesterday evening at my place when I showed the message to my family members, and I said that, see, I asked them to say hi in one sentence, and the second sentence was allowing them to understand what exactly I meant by the message. And fortunately, unfortunately, it happened that either you did not get the message correctly, or there is a problem in the understanding of the message. We'll discuss that when we discuss in literature or either in this class, how messages can be funny while they have been communicated. Okay, it was not a funny message though. You have to find out the meaning. What does the speaker want to convey in real, that means in reality. You have to read between the lines what is being communicated to you. And I'm afraid some of you might not have got the message correctly. So I would request you to go through the message again and have fun. Okay. So we stopped at source, and we discussed some of the questions that are on your screen. And we try to understand who is the source or who is the sender. So we looked at a couple of questions up to, does this third step involve send or present the information to the receiver audience? So the first step is to think about what the message is, then thinking about next is to look at the message and the language. And the third step is to send the message. Now the next question is, does the source read audience reaction next? So when you are trying to send a message, you have to understand what the audience reaction is once you send the message. If the message is read by the audience, if it is, let's say, did not understand the message, then you have to resend the message. If they have understood the message, but they seek clarification, I think you need to do that. If the audience is happy, you can feel enthusiastic and energetic. If the audience feels bored, then you have to reframe the message differently. So you have to read audience's reactions before you start sending a new message, before you start formulating a new message. The reasons are obvious. First reason is, if your audience is not interested and you try to sending message again and again, it will be like 1 + 0 is equal to 0 all the time. So you have to understand that there is substantial things happening with your message. Either the audience is reacting or seeking clarifications, or something verbal, non-verbal is happening with your message. So in short, your message is one, and audience reaction either adds to it or subtracts to it. If they don't do anything, I think in that case, it's 1 + 0 is equal to 0. Yeah, it's just one. It doesn't add anything to the message that you have delivered. So you need to understand audience reactions, right? And then you have to perceive before you send the message how your audience are going to react to your message. I thought when I sent you the message yesterday evening that you would understand and the message by not typing highs and hellos, and you would refrain by doing that, because the official groups at ILSAS, they don't they don't allow posting forwards and good mornings and all those nonsense messages that you receive on your WhatsApp. So that was the intention. But how did you perceive is entirely different. And I don't think there is something wrong in that, because you perceive based on your understanding what you have conveyed, and the audience will always perceive the message the way they perceive, the way they understand. So it's equally possible that we both stand on different platforms. We are not on the same page, and that's absolutely fine. But then if you do not perceive how your message is going to be read, received, and interpreted, I think the source has to resend the information. You have to reformulate the message. And then, does the source finally respond with clarification or supporting information? Finally, yes. I think there is a mistake in this sentence. Finally is used twice. So I'll correct it before I post it to the Google Classroom. Does the source respond with clarification or supporting information? Finally, yes. If the audience is asking you the questions for clarifications, or they require further information to interpret the message that you have delivered, the source does this. Even if the source, even if your audience does not seek clarification, it is sources or senders' duty to make things clear forcibly. You can take a step further and make your message clear. And you can do it with multiple techniques. One is asking question, a simple question. Are you with me? Or do you understand? Is there any questions? Do you understand what I mean by this? So these questions will prompt the audience to ask questions. So in a way, you are inviting feedback as a source, and that's what is required, right? Okay, any questions so far before we move on? So this is what I'm doing, seeking clarification, that if you are not clear on the topic, you can ask a question either on WhatsApp or on chat box. I am monitoring my chat box. So you can message me, right? So the first question that we need to understand is, does the source produce meaning or stimulus? The answer is yes. The first meaning, the intended meaning, is produced by the source or the sender. I want to say this. I like pizza. So that's what my meaning is. My meaning is that I like pizza. I have a particular inclination towards pizza. So this is my message. So I produce a meaning. I love pizza. Now you see, I am changing the meaning by changing the words. I like pizza. I love pizza. So intensity is increasing when I say I like pizza and when I love pizza. But then if I use this phrase, I can die for pizza. Now you can imagine each of these three sentences have different meaning, and you would read it differently. So it is the message that conveys meaning intended by the source, by the sender. And we have to understand it clearly that whatever meaning is given to us as a receiver has a meaning intended by the sender. If you don't understand the message intended by the speaker, by the sender, it is our prime duty. It is our utmost duty to seek clarification. We'll talk about it later on. But then, the next question. Is speech or written report with choice of words beginning that will convey meaning? So in your writing, in your speech, the choice of words will begin to give the meaning, convey the meaning. You can see in previous examples that I spoke, like, love, and can die for pizza, right? So these words have meaning, and a message has to be conveyed with proper words. Not only words, but also grammar. Pizza I like the most. Now see the difference. I'm changing the structure of the sentence. Pizza like I most. There is some problem with the organization. Love I like pizza. Again, there is a problem. So the way I convey my message grammatically, structurally, will change the way it has been received by the receiver. And the message, the meaning will get distorted if my grammar or organization is poor or is not up to standard. So you have to think before even you try to convey the message. You have to choose the right word. You have to choose the right structure. Along with that, you have to think, what is the most important in my speech? Is the most important part of my speech should be delivered first, or should I deliver it at the end of my message? Where should I place that information? Remember one thing, that we all have a limited span of attention. When I say attention, it varies according to the person, interest, taste, even culture, age, gender. There are various things that affect our attention. You may not be able to pay attention to your classes all the time. During the class, you might be distracted towards something, somebody, some voice, some noise, and that's absolutely fine. But then as a sender of the information, you must know where to put your important information. Where should you give the point where the attention of the audience is most? Now again, as you know that our attention span differs, so is audience's attention span. So in the beginning, the attention span would be high. As you progress, the attention span goes down, and then again it comes up, and then at the end it may increase. So you have to find out on your own that what is the attention span of your audience, in what duration, how much duration they take, in what kind of presentation, at where they pay more attention. It is that place you have to give attention and put your point. Does it matter the way you say your message? Of course, yes. Now, when I say the way of saying, there are multiple linguistic features like stress, pitch, intonation, even the voice modulation. This is the way of saying. So you must know loudness of the voice. You can't go monotonous all the time. You have to increase the voice. You have to decrease the voice in order to make your audience attentive. So it is the manner of speaking. So you can convey the most important point either aloud if there is no attention in the audience, or if they are paying 110% attention, then you can modulate your voice. The tone affects the message, the way it is conveyed. And we will do one exercise later on where I put emphasis on different words in a sentence, and then you will find the meaning changes, and you might have heard it. Is the speech that affects message? What? Yes, it affects the message. Even the body language affects the message, the way it is conveyed. The appearance of the appearance of the speaker, the appearance of the room, everything affects the message, the way it is conveyed and received. Now you may say that in writing it may not happen. Yes, it does. When you write to your friend, your tone is different. But when you write to your teacher, your tone would be entirely different. When you talk to your parents, your tone would be different. When you talk to your friends, your tone would be different. Even the punctuation is affecting the message. You may say in speech, how can a punctuation be seen? Yes, it is. The pauses we take are punctuations, nothing else. So we have to consider the message gets affected by many things, and we have to consider them while we deliver the message. Yeah, you may not hear the sound right now that is coming from the room, but there are birds chirping outside and you may hear them. There are traffic noises that you may hear them, sometimes louder, sometimes slower. And that influences the message, the convey of the message, the way it is conveyed. So you have to think through that how can I reduce, how can I improve, how can I be effective, considering all these aspects of communication, communicating the message. Because if your intended message gets distorted by either of these, the channels of communication might get broken, and we don't want that to happen. Because we want to communicate effectively, right? Let's look at what are the channels of communication. It is the medium of travel from sender to receiver. Right now, Zoom, internet are the medium, are the channels of communication between you and me. You are receiving the digital format of communication. You see me in the digital format. My voice is digitally transferred from my computer to your mobile or laptop or computer. So it's a medium of travel. You can choose what kind of medium you want. You want oral medium, or you want written medium, or you want both of them, or you want a combination of them. So think of TV channels. TV channels have audio signal, only audio signal? No, they have video signal as well. And it works only effectively if both signals are present, audio as well as video. If there is a problem with either of them, you would not go and watch a telly, and then you will say it needs repair, it is malfunctioning. So either audio or video is not going to support the channel. You need both visual as well as audio. With only one signal, you can't enjoy the TV program. Only commentary, it becomes a radio. Radio is a specific medium where only audio signals are transferred. And then you have to visualize what is happening. So with both channels, with both signals, we enjoy TV programs. Similar is the case with our communication, the message that we convey, either speaking or writing. Now, think of the instruments with which we receive and view these channels. It's television, mobile, PC, OTT, online programs. All these require a specific kind of instruments to receive and view. For example, in spoken channels, they include face-to-face conversations, speeches, telephonic conversations, public announcement systems, and voice-over internet protocol. So these are spoken channels that we can use, and there are written channels as well. And they are letters, memorandums, purchase orders, invoices, newspapers, magazine articles, blogs, email, text messages, tweets, Facebook post, and you can imagine n number of written channels. Literature itself is a written channel. You will write business letters next year. You will try to learn how to write, maybe this year and next year, or throughout your courses. So we use different channels for spoken and written. And these are the instruments with which we convey our messages, either through spoken or written channels. And we have to choose which channels are going to be more effective than the other one. If I can talk to you over a text message, I would not use telephonic conversation with you. But there are situations where you need to call somebody, and text message will not do the work for you. So it is important to find out which channel is appropriate for you to choose. If you are writing to a business organization, seeking a catalog for their brochures, product brochures, product catalogs, information on their sales reports, then you need to write to them. But then again, it depends that whether you write a letter with pen and paper or with an email. Again, within written channels, you have to choose how your audience is going to respond. Some of the organizations, like, let me share my experience. I required pay slips from my previous employers in UK. So I just wrote to them that it is for this purpose, and they issued me pay slips because I lost them. And within a couple of hours, I got all my pay slips. And in Indian context, I wrote to them, I had to write them a letter, pen and paper, and I had to post them because that's the protocol. They don't reply on emails, and that's very interesting situation because it is about the culture, the cultural differences, the urgency, why a country is developed, because they respond in a particular way of responding. Their choice of channels are effective, immediate, and the results are enormously effective. So you have to choose between how are you going to use those channels. I may talk to the government employees, and they might give me the answer that you have to follow a certain protocol, and that's how the government functions. Similar was the case when I requested documents from UK. I did not to call them. I just wrote an email and I got a response. Within 24 hours, all the pay slips were in my mailbox in a PDF with signatures. Whereas in India, I had to wait. I don't know how many days the post will take. How many days the clerk will take into consideration to put my letter into the heap of letters that they are going to receive? And I don't know when the officer is going to take into consideration my letter and will respond to me. And if they have doubt, they will write back to me instead of calling me or emailing me, though I have provided my email address and my phone number in the letter. You see how these channels will make your work either to the point or give you frustration of different sort. So channels become very important. The choice of channels that we take into consideration while communicating with others is very crucial, right? So any questions so far on this slide? You can unmute yourself and you can ask a question if you have any. Otherwise, I will move forward. You can use chat box as I said. Okay. Now, let's come back to, let's go back to receiver. Now, who is the receiver? The receiver is the person who receives the message, right? So, receiver receives the message. A simple definition. In exam, you can write that. Receiver is analyzing the message. When he does analysis, will do what analysis can do. At what level analysis is done. In literature, we will talk about it in more detail. Analysis means he interprets your message. He tries to understand the fragments of your message. He tries to understand verbal and non-verbal message that you have conveyed. The receiver will try to fragment each of that component and will try to make meaning out of it. Now, the receiver may not know what is intended and what is not intended. So if receiver understands the message, the best way is to speak back or write back saying, do you mean this? Okay, what I understand from your conversation is A, B, C, D. Do you mean that? If there is a confusion, the sender will say, no, it was not A, B, or C, D, it was C, D, A, B. So how receiver receives the message will depend entirely on his way of interpretation, his way of analysis. If the message goes misinterpreted, the receiver will straightforwardly can ask a question. Do you mean this? I think I have misunderstood what you wanted to say. Can you come again? Pardon me, excuse me. There are a number of ways from which a receiver can give you whether he has understood the message. He can give you that understanding as a receiver. The receiver uses 5 senses to interpret the message as well. This may sound interesting. The way you smell, the way you appear, your own visualization will add meaning to what you are saying. Right? So as a receiver and a speaker, we both size up each other. Size up in the sense we try to level each other where we are in the process of communication. And the non-verbal clues will help the receiver as well as the speaker to adjust the opening. Now, you can always be imaginative that what if I do this? And you might have visualized this. What if I ride that bike? What if I drive that car? Similar is the case when you try to imagine, how would I deliver this message? How would I send this message? And that always helps the receiver as well as the sender, right? Look at this picture. You will realize that there are multiple ways in which the message is sent and it is received. Now, the one person who is in blue, you might consider him an outsider. You may see him as a referee, and he will see how the messages are being received and delivered. So each one of them receives message differently, and because the message to them is sent differently. You can see the arrows going towards them and coming towards them. So that's where the games like football will help us to understand that how a footballer is going to pass on the ball to the next player, and the anticipation by the receiver that at this point I'm going to receive the message, I'm going to receive the ball. So what are we supposed to learn from this picture is this, that as a footballer, you must know where your ball is going, and as a receiver, you must know where to reach. In the context of communication, as a sender, you must know what is going to be meant by what you are saying, and as a receiver, you must reach the place where the sender is sending you the message. Okay, so we left the context somewhere afterwards receiving message and sender. The reason is because the context is involving setting, scene, and expectations of the individual, because it involves both the sender as well as the receiver. I'm sending you the entire PowerPoint presentation in a context of first-year communication skills. And your context, your setting, I'm sitting in a classroom on a bench where you are supposed to sit. The scene is that I'm facing the whiteboard, which in fact you are supposed to face. The expectation of the individual is that you will be able to grasp. My expectation as a sender is that you will be able to understand these components of communication. On the other hand, your setting is different. You are sitting, I don't know where you are sitting because I can't see you. The scene, I don't know what is happening behind you. I don't know who is interacting with you. My expectation from you is that you listen attentively and that's it. Your expectation would be different. So this context makes our communication difficult, complex, and very individualistic, because your context and my context are different. Now imagine you are trying to make a business presentation, or you are in a group discussion, or you are in a brainstorming activity. Each of these situations requires same context. If I'm making a presentation on the sales figure for the 1945 by the company called Ford cars, then we all are into Ford company in the year 1945. If we are discussing new education policy, all the context is involved in the discussion is new education policy by Government of India. If we are thinking how to make this session more interesting, we are all brainstorming. The context is same. Because this business environment, the environmental clues that we are talking here connects us. That's why the way we communicate in different situations among ourselves and with others changes. Because these events do not occur in isolation. Our communication has a thread that unites all of us. Either it's a business presentation or a discussion on new education policy or how to make lectures interesting, the brainstorming activity. That connecting thread is very crucial. And we don't talk to all of us in the same way, the way we talk to others. You don't talk to me the same way, the way you talk to your friends. So there is difference, and we have to respect this difference. Whoever, however they are speaking. They may be speaking formally, they may be speaking informally. It depends entirely on your previous educational experiences. It depends entirely on the cultural context that we come from. In my house, it is open discussion all the time. Anybody can say anything, provided it is logical. It has some base. It has a point to prove. But my daughter can't speak the same way. She can't speak the same way as she speaks to me, to her teacher. Teacher might get offended. How can you say that? I may not get offended as a father, but yes, as a teacher, I may get offended. So we have to think that how we communicate with others differently. The context provides us that. Because it's a business presentation, so you need to speak formal language. Because it's a school, so you need to use formal language with your teachers. You don't use formal language with your tuition teachers. It's a different, entirely different. Attitude of a teacher makes it possible. My teachers, even in tuitions, were not informal with us. They were formal because our times was different. So context raises expectations from individuals, whether they are sender or the receivers. And we need to understand that. For example, in our context, dancing, a father dancing with a daughter would not be seen appropriate to some extent. Husband and wife dancing in public may not seem appropriate. A man and woman dancing in public may not seem appropriate. Two classmates dancing in public may not seem appropriate. If the context is given, you may think, yes, that's right.